I'm Edie Lush, British American Project Fellow from 2005. Recently, the British American Project was very pleased to have the former French President Valéry Giscard D'Estaing join us at a dinner in the House of Commons. Dinner was very kindly supported by Aggregate Industries. The President joined us in between the two rounds of the presidential election in 2012. I started off by asking him what the difficulties were in the French presidential system today.
We are not accustomed, like the American, to have a presidential election. We started only 40 years ago. The Americans started 200 years ago. And so we don't master well the process. We have a problem which is how to limit the number of candidates. And we didn't succeed. De Gaulle tried, my predecessor, President Pompidou, tried, I tried. We all failed. So we have too many candidates. And this creates complications, false debates, and all that. And at the end, there are two candidates. The French socialists are a very curious species. Yes? It might be a compliment. They are different from the other European socialists. They quite differ from the German, and they refuse in all their debates to be called socio-democrat. They refuse. So they are socialists from the 1930s, in fact, when there was still a working class, when there were still deep social injustices, and a sort of fighting socialism, which doesn't make sense now, because the working class has been melted with the other, and the social protection we have, who comes from Britain, because it's Lord Beveridge who inspired the French system of protection, is very developed and very costly, in fact. So our socialism has no real aim except to be to the left. He is a nice person, he's a nice man, open, moderate, in fact, in his beliefs. Perhaps not in his convictions, but moderate. He never took a decision in his life, and he never administered anything. So he's quite equipped to create a new administration in France. So it's very curious, because in any other activity, people will never choose someone with no qualifications. But in modern times they do. They did in the US. Because President Obama has no qualification either. And he is good. So it's not a total objection, but it's a fact.
We heard from Monsieur Hollande, who said that he'd like to renegotiate a new European treaty to include a growth clause. How does that fit with the fiscal austerity, which has been what we've seen coming from Sarkozy and Mrs. Merkel, and how would that change the outlook for Europe?
The problems we have now, I don't speak about Britain because I don't know so well, certainly not as well as you do, the details of the British situation. The problem we have in continental Europe is that we had a terrible budgetary situation accumulated since 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. So we have an amount of debt which is enormous, and we have an annual deficit of budget which is quite excessive. This has nothing to do with the euro, it's just a political practice of the country. And the Germans escaped this First, because they are serious-minded people, and also, yes, they are one. Oh, it doesn't matter for you. Laughing, on the contrary. Bon. And also because they had a chancellor who was a social democrat, Schröder, who had the idea, very curious, long in advance, to invent an agenda for 2010 in which the German made all the reforms the other one did not. That is, they have a very high retirement age, because now it's 67 for the German. They have changed the laws for hiring and giving workers. They did all that. And they had a rather balanced budget. So the Germans say, you must do the same, what are you waiting for? And the treaty in question is to impose fiscal austerity to all European countries, not including Britain, because the British and the Czech decided not to join. Well, they used a moment to go by the door. At the same time, it's useful, and it's not far from nonsense. No, it's useful because the way of spending in continental Europe in the last 15 years is a shame. To have a deficit, a yearly deficit around 7%, 8% of the GNP, it's ridiculous, ridiculous. So it has to be corrected. But you cannot correct in 1 year or 2 years the events of 15 years. You have to spread it in a convincing way. But if you spread it, it takes longer, and the public opinion is irritated by the length. So the treaty creates what is called the Golden Rule, which is an absurd name, because there's absolutely no golden rule about the budget deficit. But it's created golden rule. It is approved by 26 countries. It is under ratification by most of them. And there is nothing in it to support growth, expansion. Alors, Mr. Hollande said, we will not ratify the treaty. You must change the treaty. To make you laugh, because laugh at our expenses, you know, is to see how the French are arrogant. Very strange. When you are a candidate for presidency, you send a leaflet to voters, all voters. And so Mr. Hollande sent a leaflet. And his leaflet, there is this sentence: Je réformerai l'Europe. I will reform Europe. For a man who is not elected, who is not member of parliament, je réformerai l'Europe. What is his position? His position is to refuse to ratify the treaty.